It's a people, it's a community, it's a life, it's a heart, it's a spirit.
Parents of gay children say, I want my son, my gay son, to have the same opportunity to come to me and say, hey, Dad, I'm getting married, as my non-gay son or my non-gay daughter.
The heck would you want a picture of a tattoo of $1,000 on your penis for?
You might just need to satisfy yourself sexually alone at that point.
Do I regret it? Not one bit. Did I think that I would actually take it the next step and do it again?
And what goes into their life, how they handle it. There are 12 houses, and each one of those houses has a particular function.
Look into yourself, think about it, and just be whoever it is that speaks to you.
Hi, I'm JC Alvarez, and welcome to Talking About. You know, as much as we like to entertain our audience and really bring you some really great entertainment every week or every month as it be, sometimes we do need to bring some very important information to our community. And I'd really like to introduce you to a really good friend of mine, one of my closest friends, Jenny Saldana, who is a guest today on our show.
Hello.
Now, what's really interesting about us is that we've known each other since high school.
I know, our whole adult life.
which is kind of a time where, you know, you kind of think you're invulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you grow up thinking like nothing can hurt you and nothing's ever going to happen to you, and no matter what happens, you know, you're going to come out of it unscathed. Well, here we are years later, and you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And it really sort of like impacted both of our lives. And would you mind sharing your story with us?
Yes, in 2006, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 34. Mm-hmm. It was actually a relief to get diagnosed, believe it or not, because it took me a year to get diagnosed. I was told, before I was diagnosed, I was told that I was too young for breast cancer. Mm-hmm. So actually I spent the whole 2005, I spent it trying to get diagnosed. Right. I was going
because you knew there was something going on.
There was something going on, right? I felt the lump. I had some other issues, and I needed to figure this out.
Was that the first indication you felt a lump?
I felt a lump, but the thing is, I have what's called cystic fibrostic breasts.
Okay.
I have cysts in my breasts. Okay.
You got lumpy breasts.
Yeah, I got lumpy breasts. So my lumpy breasts, I was always told that I needed to be very careful because I needed to know, yes, I had lumpy breasts, but I needed to know what my lumpy breast felt like. So when I felt something different, I needed to let somebody know. So the minute I felt something different, I said, I have this one little lump who's just getting harder and bigger, and I don't get it. And I would go and get checked, and they would say, well, there's nothing there. There's nothing wrong with you. You're too young, and you need to go away because there's nothing wrong with you.
You were too young. You said you were 30?
I was 34
right.
When I was diagnosed, and
okay.
You were not supposed to start getting breast cancer screening until you're 40. A mammogram isn't, most insurances don't cover a mammogram until you're 40. And the average age of breast cancer is over 40. Usually people are women about to go into menopause and things like that. So
so this is, you went to your first doctor and they said?
They said, you're fine, go home.
Right.
I felt this lump.
Clean bill of health.
Clean bill of health, you're fine, everything's great, more power to you. So then I went somewhere else because I was still having an issue, and I said, listen, something's going on here. And I was told again, listen, we told you once, we've told you twice now.
You got lumpy breasts.
You have lumpy breasts,
right.
Yeah, and you can't come in here. And I said, but I thought that was what I was supposed to do. I thought I was doing the right thing I felt a different lump, and they said, no, you're fine. You don't come back till you're 40. And I went back yet a third time, and this time they were just nasty. They said, why are you back here? And I said,
well, that could be like really draining on it.
It's draining and just traumatizing to have somebody literally look you in the eye and say, well, why are you here, Jenny? And I said, I feel something, and I need you to check it. And they said, no, you're fine, dismiss me. And I went back to my primary doctor, and I said, listen, I need to do something about this, and I can't go there anymore. And he sent me to another place. He sent me to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, and there they biopsied me. Actually, there, the minute they touched my breast, they knew something was wrong, and then they biopsied me, and the next day I was diagnosed. And, you know.
And the diagnosis was?
I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had stage 1. It was a really weird diagnosis. Also, it was quite an anomaly. Like I had stage 1, but the mass was so long. Technically, I had stage 0 because I had breast carcinoma in situ, which means that it was contained into the milk ducts.
Now that's stage 0 for our viewers would be that's it's not dangerous per se. It's like the first.
It's considered like almost like a pre-cancer.
Okay.
That's what stage 0 is, and it's contained in the ducts, means it hasn't gone anywhere. There's no lymph node involvement. It's just bottom line, you know, the safest and, you know, the best one to have if you're going to have one, right? But because of the mass was so large, it had a lot of calcifications. Calcium can build around a cancer cell, and it built and built and built, and by that time it was half of the breast. So because it was so large, and because they actually found it was about to become invasive cancer, meaning it was starting to break out of the ducts and wanted to travel.
And wanted to move around.
So because of that, they had to give me a stage 1 diagnosis. I also there are different types of breast cancers, and some of them are fed by hormones like estrogen and progesterone. Mine was actually fed by a protein called HER2/neu, which is actually more aggressive than having a progesterone or estrogen cancer. Mine was it was a much more aggressive cancer. It was gonna spread faster.
So this is kind of interesting. So it's like you went to doctors and 3 times you were told that there's nothing wrong with you, but then you go get checked out one more time, and it sounds extremely serious. It's almost as if the diagnosis is like night and day.
Yeah, it was night and day. That's why you say that, because from one day being told you're fine, go home, like they literally were just like kicking me out the door. I go somewhere else, and the doctor was keeping me in the door because I wanted to leave. I said, listen, I have a job interview. Right. I got to go. She's like, no, please stay. I want to do this biopsy. And thank God for that, because she biopsied me. The next day I was diagnosed, the next day.
So here you are sitting in that room, a young woman, all of 34.
Yeah.
And Dr. Turnstein says, you have breast cancer.
Yeah, it was actually over the phone. They don't even tell you in person. She called me. I was there. She did the biopsy, and I was because of my previous experience, I just thought this was a routine. So I said, you know what? Call me on my cell. I have things to do. I'm really busy, and just call me on my cell. She called me the next day on my cell, and I was home because I played hooky from work, because
Shocking.
I do that. And I was home, and she called, and I said, hi. And she was like, hi. And she said, Jenny, I'm so sorry, but this is a cancer. Right. And your whole life flashes in front of you. It just flashes in front of you. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to think. I literally started screaming on the phone. I was like, just screaming at the top of my lungs. And then I get all apologetic. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm yelling. I'm sorry. I'm yelling. I know I'm yelling. I'm sorry. I'm yelling.
So I can imagine the next steps were like when you had to try to explain this to your family, as far as like your diagnosis. And it's like, you and I both come from the Latin culture, where it's famous for self-medication. It's like, did your mom tell you like, oh, just rub some ointment on it?
No, but my mom's very practical too. She said she had known that I was going in for the biopsy the day before. So she says, when I called her, and I called my parents screaming again on the phone, I'm like, I have cancer. And I'm screaming. And my mom says, what? Everything's going to be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. She goes, they're gonna cut it off and you're gonna be fine. And that's, it's just like so. It's great that we come from such practical, practical culture. But it was also like do you realize what you just said to me? You just said they're gonna cut it off and you're gonna be fine.
Right.
Let me cut off your arm and tell you it's gonna be fine. And so that was difficult. But then afterwards, after we talked some more, and after I called the doctor back, after I stopped screaming, called her back. And I got more information. She did tell me that it was the most aggressive, and she said you have to come in right away. And I joke about this often, but when I met with the doctor again, she said, the mass is too large and we can't spare your breast. And my joke is that I said, well, I thought stage 1 was chemo and popsicles like Samantha in Sex and the City, because Samantha didn't lose her breast and she had stage 1 breast cancer. And I said, how come I have to lose my breast? And it was because of the calcifications, because the mass was so large that it had to come out. It had to come out. And, I was given a choice. Did I want an implant, or did I want they do a reconstruction called a tram, which is when they create a breast from your stomach tissue. They give you a tummy tuck. Yay. And they pretty much move everything up here.
But even before we discuss the reconstruction of your body, what was the first thing you had to do right after that? I mean, there were steps the doctor had to take.
Yeah,
in
you know,
helping you.
things like I had to have an MRI, and I was really afraid of the MRI, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're a cancer surveillance, you don't know anything about cancer, and all you hear is what you hear is what you hear on TV and everything. Like when they told me an MRI, I said, "Oh my God, they're gonna find it in my hair." Like, you know, I thought it was everywhere. I thought it was just all over my body, and I was so afraid. So they had to do an MRI. There's so many steps to take towards mastectomy day, towards the day of the big operation, you know. And it was I got diagnosed January 4th. I lost my breast January 25th. So I had 2.5 weeks to really just let that all, you know, sink in and to get my family ready and to get my family here from Florida and to, you know, sign up for disability at work. I mean, you don't.
Right, because I was about to ask you. It's like
that's a lot of
your
work.
insurance. Did you find any kind of trouble with insurance coverage?
The insurance company was fine. It's just that there's a lot of work in being sick.
There's a lot of work involved with being diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, there's a lot of work in just being sick in general. You can't just sit back and be the patient like you should be. You want to sit back and just deal with your sickness. But no, I had to call the insurance company. I had to call my job. I had to, you know, get all the paperwork so they knew I wasn't faking it. And, you know, you have to go through all these things. Then you have to go to the hospital because they have to do a whole bunch of other tests to see if your body can take these, you know, this kind of operation. I was under the knife for a good 12 hours.
Well, you did something that most people probably wouldn't do, and that is you became extremely proactive in dealing with your cancer.
Yes.
Some people just shrivel up and you know and hide. You know, they just don't want to deal with it, and especially be faced with someone that's so young, with this realization. So it's like it's really important that you know that you do bring to light this story, because it's like it affects everybody. I mean, cancer is, you know, it's such a devastating situation. And it's like, you know, and as you know, I lost my mother to cancer just recently as well, and it is such an amazingly draining experience from this side of the fence. For you, I mean, it's like, you know, now you got to go into the night. You got to have all these procedures done. Did you have to have chemotherapy?
Yes, I had to go through chemotherapy. But going back to your first point is that cancer hits not just the patient, it hits the whole family. Everyone gets cancer. Like if I got cancer, everybody got it in my family. Your mother got cancer, everybody in your family got it. You all have to deal with it together. It's something that affects and changes your lives forever. Yeah. I had my mastectomy and my reconstruction, and then I had to go into chemo. At first, it was more for prophylactic reasons, meaning that when they removed the breast, the cancer was gone. But because the younger I was, because I was so young, they were able to give me really strong chemo because my body could handle it, just for insurance sake, just in case there's one little cancer guy that got away and is hiding somewhere. Because a cancer cell can escape its original location and lie dormant for years, and then come back, you know, super mutant, you know, somewhere else. So
with revenge.
Yeah, that's to get you. So so I had to do chemo for a year.
Okay. And how many rounds of chemo did you have to
I only did 4 cycles of chemo, which is 2 months of chemo, which it wasn't
easy.
It wasn't easy, but it wasn't what I thought it would be. I didn't have nausea, thank God. I lost my hair. I loved my chemo weight. I looked fabulous.
And you wore a lot of scars during that.
I wore scars. I refused to wear wigs. But the American Cancer Society, I went out to the American Cancer Society and I asked for a wig, because even though I had insurance, believe it or not, I had a prescription for a wig. It was so hard to get a wig. That was very difficult. A lot of people don't talk about that. Even if you have a prescription for a wig, it's really hard to get a wig. And I had a difficult time getting a wig. So I went to the American Cancer Society, and they gave me 2 beautiful wigs that I wore once or twice, but they weren't me. I really felt like I was hiding, and I really love scarves, and I made all my friends buy me designer scarves. So I was rocking those. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really, you know, here we are sort of like past that hurdle.
Yeah.
And you know, you've sort of proven that, you know, anyone in your situation can certainly make the best of it and really get the help that they need. Do you find like now where are you now in the stage of your cancer? What is it that you're dealing with now in your day to day?
I think one of the hardest things about cancer that people don't talk about is survivorship. There are now a lot of doctors are changing the the way they treat cancer patients and now creating a prescription for survivorship, because it's very difficult to deal with cancer once you've graduated, you've had your chemo, you've had everything going on, you did all your treatment, and here you are left out there after you've suffered this traumatizing experience and you don't know what to do. So survivorship is very difficult. You think about cancer every day. You wonder if it's going to come back. You wonder if you did everything possible to keep it away. So I think that even though I've dealt with my cancer in a very positive way, survivorship is very difficult. And I do consider myself a survivor because I'm here.
Right.
But I'll never consider myself cured. I consider myself cancer-free, but definitely not cured.
Well, fortunately, you're never alone in the fight with cancer, and we're fortunate that we have a member of the American Cancer Society here with us. If we can bring out David Pulley, who's with the American Cancer Society. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we'll certainly get more of your story in there. But I mean, it's like, is Jenny's story typical for someone of her age and her situation, as far as like?
Well, I think the stories vary depending upon the person, their typical situation, or their situation that they're going through. But I think Jenny's story is important because she didn't stop advocating for herself. And that's what we recommend is, if you know yourself, know if there are any changes going on, and if so, really advocate to have yourself checked out.
Right. Now, what are some of the basic services that, someone who finds themselves in this kind of situation that the American Cancer Society can help them with?
Sure. Well, there are a variety of services that we offer, particularly in all the boroughs, but also here in Queens. One of the important things, though, is having access to those services. And we have an 800 number, which is 800-ACS-2345. And that's 24 hours, 7 days a week, staffed, and they could speak in multiple languages. And you can call them for anything, any types of questions about where to get a mammography, where the ACS offices are located, what kind of services they have. And you can do that anytime, anywhere. You're visiting your cousin down in North Carolina or whatever, and you have a question, you call the 800 number, and you can access those services. Also, our website, cancer.org, it's one of the most accessed cancer websites, roughly about 2 million hits per month. And again, has a variety of information that you can utilize and access for whatever questions you may have. And again, just to point out Jenny's particular situation, education is a huge piece.
Right.
The more education you have, the better off you are in terms of making a decision and choosing what you need to do.
Especially when you run into a situation like Jenny's, where she was basically being told that there's nothing wrong with her. It's like it's peculiar that a doctor would say to a patient who's saying to them, I think I might have breast cancer. No, you don't. It's like, is that something like, can someone report a doctor like that, or is there something, or is that common? Like, do doctors just really don't take that into consideration for someone at that age?
Like I said, not everybody has a great experience, but the important thing is that you take a look at what are your needs, what do you want, and if this particular person, no matter who it is, a doctor, a dentist, whoever it is, if you're not happy with that, you can go see somebody else and ask for a second opinion, and try to find somebody that is giving you the answers that you want.
Now, typically, Jenny described some of the symptoms that she experienced when she felt that there was something wrong with her. What are typically some of the identifiers for someone something that they should be looking for who may have breast cancer?
Well, there are several things, and first of all, we recommend the best defense is early detection and screening. So we highly recommend that. It's one of our key components is early detection and screenings. But any types of changes you may be experiencing, any changes in your breast or your body as a whole that you have concern about, you need to feel comfortable advocating for yourself and going to your physician and say, hey, listen, I noticed this. I don't like the way it looks. Can we do something about it? Can we get this checked out? So there's a variety of things that you can look for, but I think the important thing is if you're noticing a change in your body, address that with your physician. For sure.
Do you find that, it's like I said it earlier, do you find that usually like in minority communities, that there is sort of like a limit of information that's not getting out there that should be? It just seems to me as if minorities don't have or not getting all the information that we should be getting.
Exactly, and I'm glad you brought that up. Particularly here in Queens, there's a program called Train the Trainer. And if anybody watching or listening would be interested, we're looking for volunteers to join this program. And what it is, we take people from the community, train them in providing education to that particular community. So whether it's your church group or you belong to another function, a ladies group, you can go in there, you can get trained about cancer diagnosis, early detection, prevention, and get out there and help people learn about these aspects. So yes, it is a common trend, but we're trying to take steps. American Cancer Society, again here in Queens, is trying to take steps to address those issues, and that's one of the ways that we're doing that. Also, there's something called the Health Link Project, which is in all the libraries here, not all the libraries, it's in the libraries here in Queens. And what we do is we train the staff in the libraries about cancer and cancer diagnosis and early detection services, as well as how to access the American Cancer Society to ask questions about those and utilize those services.
Yeah, and there is so much information out there, and we just don't know how to access it sometimes. What again is the website for the American Cancer Society?
Website is cancer.org, www.cancer.org, and that can be accessed again through any computer. And again, at those libraries, at the HealthLink project, it can also be accessed at those libraries utilizing their computers.
Excellent. Now, in Jenny's situation, it's like you sort of like took your experience as a cancer survivor and really turned it all around. I mean, it's like, you know, you're an actress and a writer and a performer, and you made this into a play.
Yes, I wanted to document my journey, and the best way that I knew how to do that was to write a play. It's called Pink, The Chronicles of BC Jenny, and we just finished
BC Jenny meaning?
Breast cancer, and we just finished a run in the Ultimate Latina Theater Festival, coming back next year, hopefully. And I just wrote about my breast cancer journey. I wrote about the funny moments and the sad moments, but mostly about the funny moments, because I did find a lot of funny. I had to find the funny in order to survive and to get through this, because that's the only way I know how to cope, really. And so I made I think a very funny play, and it tours colleges. And if people want to find out how to get the play to go to your college, you go to latinoflavored.com, and that's flavored with an ED, not flavor. Flavored.com, Latino Flavored, and you can solicit that play among other plays that that we have in our production company. But I wrote this play because I wanted not only just to document what I was going through, but to show people what it's like for a young woman to experience this, to lose a breast, to have to deal with chemotherapy and all the aspects, and even like the stigmas that come with having been a cancer patient.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like, I think some of the things that you oftentimes we forget is that there is a certain amount of hope. You know, you get a cancer diagnosis, you get any kind of life-threatening diagnosis, and we automatically turn to the bleakness of it. But really, it's like, you know, we need to sit in the light of it and say, hey, you know, it isn't a death sentence. It's just another stage, and, you know, we can get past it. And that's certainly, if somebody needs any kind of like support,
well, I think, you know,
provide that.
Right, absolutely, and one of the important things that Jenny provides as a cancer survivor is her advocacy and getting out there and sharing her story. For instance, we have a wonderful event called Making Strides Against Breast Cancer.
And when is that happening?
That is happening October 19th on Queens Boulevard. And it's a wonderful event where we honor survivors, we remember those that we've lost, but most importantly, we raise funds to address breast cancer issues. And anybody can access that. You can become part of this wonderful walk, and it's great. We have entertainment there, and it's a real bonding experience to see everybody get together. And you can join that by, again, going to our website, cancer.org/strides online, or if that's, you know, too difficult, you call the 800 number and ask to be linked with the Queens office for the Strides event. Which is again a wonderful program, and you know we encourage everybody to get involved and get out there, because there's a way to get the message out.
Absolutely.
And Jenny's a wonderful part of that, and is you know, presents to the group and is great. But also we do have services that are free for anybody that unfortunately may be diagnosed with cancer, and these are offered at the Queens office, and that would be our Look Good Feel Better program, Reach to Recovery, which is our breast cancer specific program. Our wig program, we give out free wigs, as Jenny had mentioned. And we have a transportation assistance program. So somebody traveling to get treated, we offer financial assistance for them getting treated. And our man-to-man program, which is a prostate cancer service. Also
something that we should touch on as well. Your team has a really unique name for your...
Yes,
well, because I mean, people are going to ask.
Yeah, no, my team. I am a member of. I have a team for Making Strides Against Breast Cancer. I don't do it in Queens. I do it at the Central Park Strides Walk.
Because there's different ones in each borough. Okay.
Yes, and my team name is Hooray for Boobies. because who doesn't love them? And that's my team name, and we're always.
Well, you know,
And
it is
it's-
kind of funny. but-
It is funny, but
Yeah.
it's hooray for boobies, and I'm a pace setter at for Making Strides. It means that I raise every year over $2,500, and I'm not there yet, so I need your help.
And if somebody wanted to, is there a site that they can go to? If they want
Actually,
to?
they can go on this. How do they?
Cancer.org,
great.
/Strides Online.
Nice.
And you would search out the Central Park Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, which is also on October 19th. And then you would search Jenny's name to link up to her.
Either my
her team.
name, Jenny Saldana, or my team name, Hooray for Boobies.
And then they can make a donation to you.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And no donation is small.
No donation is small.
No.
Okay. Very good. Very important. The strides. I'm sorry. Making strides. How much money do you guys raise on that?
Well,
event?
since 2007, we've had 500,000 walkers, raising over $50 million. But in total, since 1993, been $280 million in total specifically for breast cancer, and that includes research, services, and advocacy and programs.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Now, this event, I understand, is one of the biggest, not in the nation. It's one of the biggest in the world, right? Is it a worldwide event?
It's actually one of that's another one of our fundraisers called Relay for Life, which is a wonderful program. But Make Strides Against Breast Cancer is the largest fundraiser for breast cancer for the American Cancer Society. Yes, but unfortunately not worldwide yet, and we're looking hopefully to go that route though.
Right, that's fantastic. It's just so fantastic to know that there are so many avenues for people who need information regarding breast cancer and the challenges of living through breast cancer, and that these opportunities are available to anyone who needs them. David, would you give us again the website for the American Cancer Society for our viewers to get some information?
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, I'll give our 800 number again, so 800-ACS-2345, and our website is cancer.org. That can be accessed anywhere, anytime.
And those are important. That's important information to maintain and to have, because there is hope. There's never a dark cloud in a situation like this, and here we have living proof of that.
Yes.
And we're always very grateful. I'm very grateful to have you in my life and continue to have you, and very grateful to the services that American Cancer Society provides for people living with cancer.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, what I do want to do is at this time, we certainly would like to open up the phone lines to anyone who'd like to call in, who has any questions regarding to either Jenny and her show, and certainly for David as well on American Cancer Society. Interestingly enough, hopefully the number will flash up on the screen because I forgot it, but I'm sure that number will come up, and please feel free to call in if you have any questions for our guests. They'd be happy to answer your questions regarding, again, cancer or Jenny's show, and David's here from American Cancer Society as well to take those questions. Let's touch a little bit on this, because I was when I was doing research for when you guys were coming out to visit, men and breast cancer. There's kind of a staggering number that I understand that there's almost 2,000 cases of men that are diagnosed with breast cancer, and almost a fourth of that number, they die
500.
because of they just.
I mean, well, it could be a variety of reasons. They haven't actually narrowed it down, but it could be for late diagnosis. There could be a stigma around, well, how can I have breast cancer? I'm a man. And they don't go and get it checked out, so later diagnosis, and then of course possibly not following through with treatment if they are diagnosed, and that's an estimated number, about 2,000 nationwide, and then 500 of those 2,000 dying from breast cancer in men. Yeah. So again, it's about noticing changes in your body, and this goes across the board though. If you're noticing any changes, you should go to your physician and get it checked out.
Now, the symptoms for a man who finds himself in a situation that, just the thought of it alone, man having breast cancer, is it the same sort of symptoms that they'll feel? They'll feel a lump?
Right, exactly. They'll feel a lump there. They could have a discharge that they find, a bloody discharge. Symptoms like that can occur, yes, do occur with men as well in terms of the breast cancer.
Right. Yeah, that's because, it's like you don't think about those things. You don't think that could be a situation for me, because, we tend to associate prostate cancer with certainly the more common cancer amongst men. Now, that's always been kind of curious to me. Why is it that women over 40 are sort of like, or they tell women over 40 that that's when you should start being treated or start getting cancer screenings. That's always been very curious to me.
Well, it's it's based on age, and they average that on diagnoses, how many people, what age are people diagnosed. They say 40. And you should get it yearly at 40. But also we recommend, if you're in your 20s and 30s for women, maybe having a clinical breast exam every 3 years, or every 2 to 3 years. But again, I think, and I can't stress it enough, if you're noticing any changes, to get that addressed right away. Now for men, it's 50 to speak to your doctor about getting a prostate examination or early screening, which would be a PSA test, or a DRE, a digital rectal exam.
Right.
But again, and this goes for both men and women, if there's a strong history, a strong link of history of cancer in your family, and strong history is, you immediate, your mother, your sister, your brother, your father, you should start a little bit earlier, maybe, in your 30s for women to start getting regular mammograms, and for men, in your 40s to start getting screened for prostate cancer.
Right, which is, I guess, for in a case like myself, where my mom passed away from cancer, and my grandfather also had cancer. Certainly, in my lineage, it seems to be like I would be at risk in some way, so I should certainly consider getting cancer screenings as soon as possible.
Absolutely, and it's a matter of, the point isn't to make everybody afraid, so like, oh my God, I got to get this little ding check, but it is important to know that, look, I'm feeling something different, and I'm not comfortable with this. I want to get it checked out. And if there's a history, the best defense is an early detection.
Right.
I mean, there's no disputing it. If you just go and get checked out, and if they catch it, they're going to catch it earlier at an earlier stage, it's better treated.
Now, Jenny, I know you became an advocate for breast cancer, and you certainly have done some work with the American Cancer Society. Did you find other women in your situation with similar stories? I mean, it's like, and now being on the fence on the other side, sharing your experience with them, how was that for you?
Well, I've met very few young women, the young women that I have met with breast cancer have always been like me, that they were told no, and they were told they were fine, but you built this camaraderie.
Go ahead.
Did I do that?
No, it's actually, we're getting a call.
Oh.
Yeah, we're getting a call. So let's take the call and then come back to your point, because it's a very important point. Hi, caller, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, yes.
Yes, good evening. Charlie
Hi.
from Ozone Park, Queens.
What is your question?
Yeah, I just would like to know, sort of a related
Hi, can you hear me?
to what you guys are talking about. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Okay, I got a question. Why
Absolutely.
do you think, maybe the panel can address this also, why do you think now men, even at a younger age now, are having these difficulties where they need to be taking this Viagra and all these other drugs to help them, when years ago men wouldn't suffer from these type of difficulties till they really reached a much higher age? So why do you think even younger men now need this kind of medications, and a lot of times the medications don't even help? So what do you think is behind all of this?
Well, I don't know if that's certainly a cancer-related issue, but I mean, it's certainly prone to think that, like you said before, that if you start noticing that something wrong or something's not feeling right, it's important to
speak to your physician.
Right,
Absolutely.
to get checked out for anything that might seem peculiar or out of the ordinary, because just taking care of, just because you have a problem with one thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not a problem somewhere else. It's like, you can't fix something with a Band-Aid, so you need to move on and check yourself out, because that's important. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Which like back to your note, stories that you must have heard, because I know you did a lot of counseling, did you not? With
I did meet with other people. It was a lot easier for me to actually just talk to women that were diagnosed also, as opposed to going to like a support group. Support groups are great, and if you feel that you need that, then that's where you should go. But I actually found one of my friend's mother was diagnosed, and she became a support group, and I had never even met her. We just talk on the phone, and she would tell me stories, and I would tell her stories. I'd cry to her, and she'd cry to me, and it's just very cathartic to talk to other people. And when you see someone else that's had any cancer, you just kind of look at each other and you go, hi,
Sure,
how are you?
Yeah,
and
there does become that connection. There's that established of like, I'm not alone, which is in my situation, you were sort of like my sounding board so many times when when I would call you and say, she got this diagnosis now. What's this mean? And and as I tell oftentimes, you actually diagnosed my mom before the doctor gave us a diagnosis for what was really ailing my mother's. And what was her exact cancer diagnosis. So yeah, it's important to reach out and find that support unit, and because that's really it's what's gonna get you through it ultimately.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we can offer for people that are looking for that. And again, access. I've heard stories of patients calling the 100 number like 3 in the morning just because they wanted to talk to somebody. And the people that staff the lines are well trained and they're wonderful people, excellent people. So the point is you're never alone ultimately, and we can help you to for whatever your needs may be.
Definitely help out there.
Definitely, and to that point, you're never alone. And if anyone has any questions, we certainly would love to take your calls. Please, the number is up on the screen. So feel free to call in if you have any specific questions to what we're talking about today. I keep hearing, but this is of course with everything across the board, and it freaks me out when I hear it. Clinical trials. What the hell is a clinical trial? It's like, and when I hear about it, it's in that context of like, oh yeah, she's got cancer, but she's on a clinical trial.
I actually participated in.
Well, first of all, explain what a clinical trial is.
Well, clinical trials are when companies are developing new medicines or new treatment options that are going to hopefully help and treat cancer better. The American Cancer Society, one of the things that they do is that they raise a lot of money for research. When you raise a lot of money for research, they need the drugs need to be tested on people who are suffering XYZ type of cancer and dealing with in reference to the American Cancer Society. So it's a trial. Usually, depending on where you are in your cancer diagnoses, there are different types of trials that one would take. Like I had stage 1 breast cancer, so I would not be taking a clinical trial for people who are at the end of close to the end of their journey.
I see, okay.
But I have actually participated in and the clinical trials aren't always taking drugs. Like I did clinical trials where I just had to take surveys, or when I was going through chemo, I had to do a clinical trial where they tested my cognitive skills because they wanted to see how chemotherapy affected my brain and how I process things. So I would go and take these crazy tests to see how I was reacting to it as my chemo progressed.
And
so
did you find that?
Yes, you lose your mind when you're going through chemo. You forget everything. It's really hard to concentrate on things, and it was apparent. It was apparent in my test. Like I was tested right before chemo, so I'd never had anything in me. Then during chemo, then right after chemo, and then 6 months after that, and you could tell that I was like, my brain was like just going.
And all this time.
Yeah,
we just thought that.
We just thought I was flaky.
And would the American Cancer Society sort of like position someone who may have a question about clinical trials? Is that something that you
absolutely we can assist them in locating directly on our website cancer.org or through one of our local offices, again the Queens office or any other 5 boroughs. We can link you to clinical trials. And just to give you an idea, the American Cancer Society is the only public health organization that has donated since 1972 $322.7 million to breast cancer specifically. And because of those dollars and the research that is developed with those funds, we've helped develop some of the drugs like tamoxifen and Herceptin, which are widely used now for breast cancer. We've had a hand in developing those. So it is very important to us and an aspect that we try to address specifically for the needs.
I benefited from Herceptin. Herceptin was a drug that it's called a target drug. Chemotherapy is, it's not a target. Chemotherapy kills all fast-dividing cells. Cancer is a fast-dividing cell. So is your hair, so is your skin, so are your nails. So that's why you lose your hair and your skin gets crazy when you're going through chemotherapy. Herceptin is a targeted drug, meaning it knows exactly what it's looking for. And my cancer, as I mentioned before, was HER2 new positive. Herceptin looks for this protein and pretty much just stops it from producing, and that's what Herceptin does. And it's been considered almost like a miracle drug, because at first it was only given to women with advanced metastatic breast cancer. So it was dealt just to really prolong their life and to give them a better quality of life and to keep the cancer under control. And they found recently that it worked well with earlier stages of breast cancer, especially with something as aggressive as what I had, which was HER2/neu. And a funny story, when I heard that from one of these companies that when Herceptin came out, it was told that it was like such a miracle drug that a lot of women were hoping that they had HER2/neu cancer. Like when they were diagnosed, they were hoping that theirs was HER2/neu positive, because they thought that this was really just going to come and just kill it. But yes, I took Herceptin for a year, and it's a difficult drug. It's administered like chemotherapy, but I definitely feel it's almost like an insurance plan. I definitely feel that it's helped me deal with my diagnoses, and it's helped me feel better about my prognosis.
Right, that's phenomenal. Now, in a case like, I'm sure that you turned to the American Cancer Society to get all this information, because it's really amazing how much information you know about, about the situation.
I shocked you with that one, huh?
Well, no, it's like, hey, she's where I would go to, and it is. And your source was the American Cancer Society to sort of like navigate you through these really challenging waters.
The American Cancer Society is still very instrumental in my life. I've decided to dedicate a lot of my time to them because I really believe in what they do. But yes, they were definitely instrumental in my education. But also when you're in it, you become an expert just because by default of something I never wanted to know about.
Right.
But I just I didn't know this thing about Herceptin, and they told me about it, and things like. Yeah, you just become an expert on it just by default, just because it's what you're dealing with. And David said it before, and you said it, education is one of the biggest tools and strengths that you can have when it comes to anything that has to do with your person. I needed to educate myself, and the American Cancer Society was instrumental in helping me get the education that I needed for me to best decide how to deal with my diagnoses. Absolutely.
Now, David, are you finding that now with the treatments that are out there, the quality of life is maintained, and that people are finding that there is light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, it's like we no longer look at cancer as a death sentence.
Well, I mean, again, it depends on the individual and where you are and the development of the disease at that level. But I mean, sure, there are techniques out now and treatments that extend the life, and hopefully, something that we're trying to focus on is improving the quality of life for cancer survivors, and having somebody like Jenny to volunteer for us and speak to people and let them know that, look, it's tough, but you can get through it, and this is where it can be. And I encourage anybody, you don't have to wait to that point, either that you yourself may be diagnosed or you know somebody. You can get involved with us in a number of ways, and making strides against breast cancer is one aspect, but also you can volunteer with us in a number of ways. So
listen, we have a caller who has a question. Hello, caller.
Hi.
Hi.
And it's a very powerful topic, and the young lady has a very powerful story, and I'm happy that she's doing well.
Thank you.
I was also curious about the website. Is there information about screening and prevention, or is prevention an inaccurate term? I'm not sure.
No, that's an accurate term, and it is available on our website, absolutely. Plenty of information for a variety of cancers, in particular to screening. But also prevention, yes, it is available on our website.
What is the best way to go about prevention and screening? Is it self-exam for either gender?
Well, no, I think being like we were talking about before, being aware of your body and noticing changes is very important, of course. But screening is really the best way for early detection of cancers, and that goes from everything prostate, breast, colon cancer. It is the way to know for sure what's happening. But again, prevention, on the prevention side, it's pretty much maintaining a healthy life. You want to eat right, and you want to treat yourself right, and not overexpose yourself to things that could be damaging to you. But it's not, again, it's about being aware of where your body is.
Don't smoke.
Don't smoke, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
That's important. That's important that you say that, because it's like I know that there was a situation when you were first seeing with your diagnosis where you were almost made to feel as if it was your fault you got cancer, you know, and it's like whether it was because, well, have you ever had a drink? Have you done this? Have you done that? Well, then, that's why you had.
That's what you got.
And it's kind of like like you said, it's like it's very important that we take very good care of ourselves. But it's like it's not as if someone who like what I'm trying to say is who's at a higher risk factor here? Is it someone who who does smoke or someone who does drink too much, or
there is no, we can't say taking good care of yourself. Definitely not smoking. That's just proven with, and it's like don't smoke. I mean, pretty much. Cut back if alcohol, reduce your alcohol intake. Healthy eating, exercise. Exercise is important. It's huge.
and
and
these are little things. I mean, these are little things that we can do every day.
Exactly.
Right. These are little things we can do every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we take it for granted and think like that can't do anything. Now, another thing I do want to elaborate more on is you mentioned before a lot of the volunteer services that ACS, specifically, like let's say for example, one of the basic volunteer services that you offer. What is it?
Sure. I mean, it can be anything from working directly in our office, maybe helping us out with administrative aspects.
Oh, cool.
But also this piece about the community education is huge. Being in your community and being able to educate people, and we would give you the training for that. It's going on right here in Queens. It's called Train the Trainer.
Right.
And that's a huge piece. You get out in your community, you teach people about early detection, prevention, and cancer in general.
Excellent. Well, we have a caller. Caller, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi. You have a question for us?
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. You were talking about risk factors for cancer. I'm going to ask the question and then I'm going to hang up. I have heard that meat eating isn't a great thing. Cattle are injected with hormones, and the hormones are incorporated into the human body, and they create problems. Has anyone done any studies on that? And because I have heard that cancer patients in some cases are put on vegetarian diets, which have no hormones and things. So I'm going to hang up, and you can kind of discuss that, okay?
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the recommendation is a reduction of red meat.
Really? There really is
there have been studies looked at it, and I can't exactly quote, but again, always feel free to go on our website, cancer.org. You can look these aspects up. But specifically, reduction in red meat is definitely recommended. You want to eat vegetables. You have your 7 servings of vegetables and fruit every day. You want to try to drink as much water as you can. And going towards the white meats, particularly fish and chicken, poultry. It is proven to be better than red meat.
Sort of like the cleaner meats. Again, it's like just something simple that you can do every day to sort of like keep away from a greater evil. That's wild. You don't think about that. So it's like so again back to the volunteer services. Now, someone comes to you who wants to be a volunteer, and you said they get all the training that's necessary. Because I mean, this is really detailed stuff that you have to. Did you have to learn? Was it daunting for you to sort of like get all this
my
information?
Volunteering, I don't hang out in the office that much.
No.
My volunteering.
You don't hang out in the office that much?
Only when I want them to buy me lunch. But my volunteering, I extended it to mostly fundraising. I do my strides. I have a huge party that I call Hooray for Boobies also. I have a comedy show that I put on, that I produce, and that's how I volunteer my time.
Awesome.
I call people and get them to donate stuff.
And we got a caller.
Hi, caller.
Hi, caller.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, do you have a question for us?
Oh, okay. There's a delay on the phone.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, you were talking about just reducing the amount of red meat. I think it's becoming pretty pervasively known that it's all animal products, not just red meat. It's milk, it's chicken, it's fish. They're all loaded with crap that is very toxic to people. And I think the American Cancer Society should be much more aggressive about pushing us and making it more mainstream. I had cancer, breast cancer, 10 years ago, and it wasn't very much in my family, but I tested twice genetically negative. So I asked myself, what else could it have been? And I know it was my diet. Milk is loaded with bovine growth hormone, and that's also your cheese. Chicken is just as horrible as red meat. And I just think you owe it to the public to not just limit restrictions to red meat, all animal products, including eggs. And that's all I wanted to say.
So thank you, caller, and good luck. And
Congratulations on your
Yeah,
survivorship.
congratulations. Yeah, definitely. So basically, adapting a not only a healthier diet, but almost adapting a vegetarian diet may be very, very important because as the caller did say, we don't know how much stuff is in food products anymore.
Well, a lot of people go and buy organic.
Oh, we have another caller. Oh, we've got another caller.
Wow,
All right.
hi.
Hi.
Hello.
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 I have a question for Jenny.
Yes, hi.
My question is, what advice would you give to someone who recently found out that their spouse had breast cancer? And I'm asking, how would that person support that person? What should the person do to support the person?
I'm so glad that you asked that. That's such an important question to ask. And I think that the first thing that you need to understand is that you're not going to understand what she's going through. That's the first thing that you need to understand. You're not going to understand. So I think it's best to just be there and be present. And sometimes, I'll tell you, my caregivers were actually over caring, and I needed them to back up. So sometimes you have to be careful about that. You're not going to understand what this person is going through. You need to be there. You need to be present. You need to educate yourself just as much as she is educating herself. And you need to know every single step and be there for every single step. But when she says back up, you better back up.
That's a million. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to kind of touch on that point as well, on our website, cancer.org, there's a specific caregivers, friends and family link that you can click on and get all the information you may need as a caregiver or friend or family member to, again, educate yourself and maybe know how to approach certain aspects with somebody that may be diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Right, because us living on this side, I know dealing it with, we all handle it in my family in a very different way. Like, I was the one that emotionalized it when my brother intellectualized it because he was the one sort of like giving my mother all of her information and sort of like, dealing with her. So we all kind of like, we took compartments to how we reacted to the cancer and sort of like handled it all very differently from one another. And we did the best that we could, which is all that you can do in a situation like that. And like, and it's certainly, sad and we miss her every day, but it's at the same time, it's sort of, this doesn't have to be the situation. If there's early detection, there's help out there. There's certainly avenues that are open to everybody. And again, the website, David?
Is cancer.org, and our number is 800-ACS-2345.
And it's 24 hours, and there's always going to be someone there who has a question relating to this. And, what I do want to ask you is, like, what's next? Because, I mean, it's like, it's a challenging thing that you undertake with just how you feel about being a cancer survivor.
I think that definitely the next thing for me is to push my play and to get it out there and just to for the purpose of education and to get the word out and to entertain because I'm funny. But definitely as a survivor is to just, for me personally, I've healed by talking. I've healed by volunteering. I've been part of numerous case studies. And that's what's next for me, to just be, I need people to know that this is the face of breast cancer. Right. This is it. Not always your mother, not always your grandmother. It's this girl, So, and I need people to know that.
And certainly with the services that American Cancer Society provides, we are changing the face of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And letting everyone know that, there's help if you need it, and it's out there.
Yes.
And we can't drive that point enough because, sometimes we take for granted that there is help out there, and we just don't know where to look.
Don't know where to look, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And fortunately, there is, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
it. Well, we're very grateful that you were able to turn lemons into lemonade. Because, because I'm very grateful for you every day.
Oh.
Absolutely. For all the years that we've been together and all the years that we still have to come.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot to do.
Yeah, I know, exactly, right. And I'm certainly grateful for an organization like American Cancer Society, which not only helps cancer survivors, cancer patients, but as well as the families that do find ourselves in these situations where, where do we look, where do we turn, and there they are. It's an important thing that you do, and you have to continue doing it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're very grateful for that. And you definitely, if you need any of these services, please don't hesitate to reach out to the American Cancer Society if you have any questions. It's very important, and definitely don't be shy about self-examinations and getting the help that you need, because in a case like Jenny's, it saved your life to really insist that,
Absolutely.
that because if you hadn't taken that moment to really push and become your own advocate,
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, you wouldn't be here. It would be a totally completely different situation.
It'd be a whole other show.
Well, we wouldn't have a show. We wouldn't have a show at all. Absolutely, and where would that be? And certainly, there would be no job for the American Cancer Society if you wouldn't be here. So, so it's for all the services that you provide, and for keeping keeping our friends and families living with cancer healthy. It's very important. And the next event that's coming up is the
Strides.
Right?
Would be our Making Strides Against Breast
Making
Cancer.
Strides. And if you want to donate,
Hooray for boobies.
Which is
How do they find Hooray for
cancer.org /strides online. And also you can join us. So feel free to go on there and make your own team.
Oh, very cool.
Don't steal my name, but make your own team.
Get your own team.
Get your own team.
Yeah, and the overall message today has been that, wherever your situation is with cancer, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You're not alone. You'll always have help. You'll always have someone. And again, it's not what it used to be. It's you will be fine, as we all are here today. As a testament to that. So
that's right.
So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and share your story, especially.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Sure.
It's just wonderful.
And David, thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you for having us. Absolutely.
And until the day where we don't have to have another walk for cancer, we all reach for that goal. But in the meantime, we all have to do our part. So hopefully, we'll see you all participating in that walk for cancer, because it's happening in all five.
All five boroughs on October 19th.
Oh, okay. So join us for the walk, okay? And this has been another installment of Talking About. I'm JC Alvarez, and thanks for joining us.